Today on the channel we are going to be looking at My Collections episode 23, and we've got 3 Phantom comics for you to for me to have a look at and for you to watch. The first issue we're going to be having a look at is The Hunchback, the Phantom in issue number 1824. And then we've got the next one, we've got the Death's Hour, the Phantom issue number 1826. And we've got the Carabassian League, the Phantom issue number 1827. So let's have a look. And this is My Collections episode 23. And the first issue is The Hunchback number 1824. And this cover has been brought to you by Antonio Lemos. This set of books was first published in 2018 by Few Publications. So yeah, this story was published in 2018 and it was also first published by Semic Press in Scandinavia number 1 in 1989. The Hunchback. Hunchback story. Who was he done by? Hunchback story by Michael Therese and art by Jamie Valvey. Just appreciate that art for a moment in time, because that's just beautiful. And as I'll say again, throughout this series, when we have a look at Phantom comics, we don't really review them. We don't really review the comics. We just have a look. We just sit down, experience what the comics are. We look at the art, not really talk about the story. And we just appreciate comics from, I'm going to say this, from the yesteryear. But really, these comics are from 2018. They're at the end of 2018. And we're really nearly up to 2019 in this series. Because I can remember I bought these in 2018. I first started collecting the Phantom in 2016. So I was roughly 2.5 years into collecting the Phantom. Also, sometimes we bring up stories relevant to the comics that we're having a look at. I haven't looked at this comic and the next couple after for a very, very long time. Like this Phantom comic, I think it has something to do with Shakespeare. I can't really remember what it is. Something to do with Hunchback. There's probably some sort of murder happening. But yeah. From what I can remember, it was a very intriguing, very, very good story. I think that's one of the reasons why I just love Scandinavian stories. They're just something different. It's something that you don't really see that often in Phantom stories, really. And they really approach the Phantom in a different perspective most of the time. Whether that perspective aligns with people is another thing. Plus, they have, especially the old ones, they have really, really great art in them. And artists that you do those old ones are even better. Like Jamie Valvey, he's one of the best. He would be, if you were to number the amount of artists that did and worked on the Phantom in Scandinavian stories, he would be in your top 5. Pretty much. He would be in your top 5. If you were to label top 5 different writers in Scandinavian stories, I think the top 2 would either be a bash out between Norman Walker and the combination between Michael Therese, who wrote this story, and Klaus Riemerthy, who are the same people. But Klaus Riemerthy, who wrote this story, he used a Pistonian. early on in his writing career, he used a Pistonian, and that Pistonian's name was Michael Tyrrez, because when a person uses a Pistonian, as in like a different name, it's just to get their work out there. It's really just to try and make a name for themselves, and really just to add some sort of awareness to what they're writing, pretty much. And then normally afterwards they go back to their original name. Normally that's what happens. Sometimes you see it with music people, like they might have a real name and then they might go under a name that their music is under, such as, I'm pretty sure, like they might have a band name, such as an artist that would do that is Katy Perry. I think that's like her band music name, and then she might have a name under that, pretty much. Not many people know a lot about people that have Pistonians. Normally people just call the person whatever is the most known name to the person that they're calling it. So with Katy Perry, obviously the most known name for her is Katy Perry, but maybe she might have a under name underneath all that, which most people do if they are very, very well regarded around the world. And then we have the forum, social media, emails, and the forum, letters, comments, social media, emails. Yeah, so that's the first issue. Really, really great cover by Antonio Lemos. It's the colourful nature of his covers that just make them so appealing, and make them why I love his work so much. Now we've got the Death's Hour. We've got issue number 1826. I actually remember grabbing this issue from the news agency, and I remember saying to myself, oh, is this a Antonio Lemos cover? And then I flipped it over, which I'll do now. I'll flip it over and we'll say that it's not actually Antonio Lemos cover. But I initially thought it was, but it wasn't. Because when you have a look at this certain cover artist, when he does his covers, normally he'll try and put his name in a specific spot, which isn't entirely noticeable when you first get it. And that, I think, is sort of like his tag. That's what he does. And the person that did this cover, surprisingly enough, is Glenn Ford. One of the things that I will say again, I'm not too sure if wouldn't have, because the second channel started in 2019, so I wouldn't have reviewed this comic book before. So one thing that I will say is that the one thing that I admire the most in this Phantom cover is the way Glenn Ford has lined up all of the architecture in the ancient world. It's reminding me of when Cesar Spadari would do his stories and would do the art for those stories. He would be so accurate in what he's drawing, because it got to be, if it's a historical linked story, he sort of has to be accurate enough to tell people this is what time period it's from. So that I love how all this architecture around the Phantom battling this dude in a sword fight is just, yeah, it's beautiful. Very, very good. And this comic is from 2018. Because I think I actually remember being very, very excited, because the Christmas special was coming out that year in a few weeks' time. Yeah. Next issue, which is the one after this one, 1827, the Carabassian League, would come out on sale the 6th of December in 2018. I was getting really, really excited for when the Christmas special would come out, and I always get excited for the Christmas special because I thought of it as I would be having more reading material to read. Yeah, I'd have more material to be reading, and I always thought, Phantom, it's great. I get more reading material from what I'm paying for, and I have fun when I'm reading it. So that was the logic behind it. Okay, we've got this story was first published by Samick Press, Scandinavia number 3 in 1989. Oh, alright. So this issue here, this issue story, was first published in 1989 by Samick Press. A couple of issues later by Samick Press, this story would appear in the same year. That's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. And the story was story written by Michael Tyrrell. Art was provided by, again, Jamie Valvey. Which, if you know his stories, if you know the art that's been supplied by him, you already sort of mistakenly already know who it is. Because it's like how I was saying how you might have like a top 5 different Scandinavian artists that have worked on the Phantom, and in those top 5 you explicitly know who has done what their art already looks like, because if you have experience, you already know yourself. Up in your brain, you're already thinking, oh yeah, that sounds familiar, that looks familiar, and yeah, it looks beautiful. And that's no given for this one. This one is very, very beautiful. It's actually from a time period where things would have been definitely a lot more going on. This may have been 16th, 17th, maybe 18th. I don't know. We're talking centuries here. Wow, I'm just going to take a detour here. Like we're in roadwork and we're taking a detour. I'm just going to say, out of all respect for him, how is he breathing? That thing is enclosing into his neckline. Like, how is that dude breathing? That just defies logic. He would nearly be choking, really. It'd be so restricting. People wore those things in those days, Brad. I know that. I'm historically learned. I have education. Yeah, right. Most days I do. I love it when I get to see panels like this. The snow falling. It's just beautiful. It's like speckled paint going on. It's just beautiful. It creates so much drama in so little time and so little space in the panels, Jamie Valvey does. It's very good. And this story was published back in a time when obviously the computer was just starting out. Obviously there was no phones back in those days, because the phone didn't get invented until 2007. So it was back in the time when really people just had to focus on whatever they were focusing on. Really simple times. Like, imagine some of the original art for this story. It would absolutely blow people's minds if people saw it. Be beautiful. Like, the work that's gone into that just there is just, yeah, it blows a person's mind. Some of the panels he has done, it's pretty much that. We'll just have a little bit of time here to take in all what's happening here. The guy says, "You have more lives than a cat." A cat has 8. The Phantom has more than that, mate. Normally such. He has more than 8. He probably has 18. Nah, he probably has 20. Unfortunately, he just has 1. And gets himself into a lot of precarious situations. But somehow finds a situation out of that situation. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. I'm going to have a guess and say it's either Spanish, Mexican, or just great art. Yeah, it's just great art, Brad. Great art. Look at that big, massive grizzly bear. It needs food. That food is going to be you. No chance. And then we have the last one, the Carabarsian League. We have the Phantom issue number 1827. This story was done by and wrote by Madden and Boyce. John Boyce and Madden. It was written by Philip Madden and drawn exquisitely by John Boyce. No wonder I was getting very, very excited. Full color, all American. I was thinking, aren't all Christmas specials supposed to be coming from America? Yes, Brad, yes they are. Oh mate got played. No he didn't, he just likes Phantom comics. This story was first published by Egmont in Scandinavia number 6 in 2017. This artist would be in your top 5. Maybe in your top 10 if he falls out of the 5. Because there's just so many great ones and it's very hard to pick who goes where. I might have to actually say that. I might actually have to really knuckle down, actually make a top 5 Scandinavian people. I say that I'm going to do something, I forget about it, and then it doesn't happen for another couple of years until I remember it. I love it. I love it. I warned you. Now you get skull mark. Wow, that dude's a scary dude. That dude has horns. There's a cult. This is a cult. You can literally tell what's going on in this story because it's just run by a cult. There's a cultus happening here. It's cultivating evil. And yeah, it's always run by. Oh yeah, someone's getting... Oh no, that's not good. Okay, I'm gonna read this. It's not reviewing it, I'm just reading because this is interesting. I surrender. Alif. Don't say anything. Take her to the dungeons. So, my strange friend, what do you want as a reward? Gold? Women? Absurd. Give the woman into my custody. She is only misguided. Absurd. You had your chance. The girl will be executed at dawn. And as for you guards, throw him out. So much for the gratitude. You heard the Sultan. Let's go. Poor elf, Alif. As they say, tomorrow is just another day. Come on, you treacherous scum. You have an appointment with the hangman, the man who hangs people. Not funny, Brad. For crimes against your Sultan and the Empire, I sentence you to death. Only because he has something against her. Probably. Maybe. Get ready, Olif. Yes, now let's get out of here. Stop them, somebody. Somebody stop them. I would follow you anywhere. Not really, because you're not going to get stopped. Sorry, but I need your horse again. Sorry. Not sorry. That should keep them from following us for a while. Later, outside the city, will you try to find a new life for yourself? With your help, I think I can. Maybe in Africa. Maybe in Africa, where does it rain? We're raining in Africa, raining in Africa. Probably, maybe. Don't know. Is it wet season there? Heart of Darkness. I think that's chapter 5, part 3. Wow, this series went for so long. I can actually say that because it did. And I don't know why I'm still talking about it. Maybe because you're looking at the page, bud. Maybe. The story was wrote by Klaus Remuth and John Bites. I don't know why it has taken so long for no one to publish this story in English in full. I'm not sure why, because it hasn't happened yet. Then we have the forum, letters, comments, social media, emails. And we have ads. And then we have nothing. And then we just have a back cover where I'm about to talk about it. Okay, this cover and back cover was supplied by Jason Paulos. It's like when you create a top 5 of Scandinavian artists that do work on the Phantom, and then you create a top 5 of cover artists that you already know who they are, what the art they are working on, because they just are so uniquely inspired by what they do. And plus, if you see it enough times, you're obviously going to work out who's which and who's what. I hope you enjoyed this episode of looking at Free Phantom Comics on My Collections episode number 23. And as always, keep Phantom Caving, stay safe, and you'll see me next time on the channel.